we still spend quite a bit of time together now, and it's great. It's to me, it's a very special thing to have someone that really knows the community, make a conscious decision to come back and serve that community. And I don't think anyone epitomizes that spirit more than EJ, whether it's in the police department or coaching sports or just being around. So we're very lucky to have him. This seems like the most natural promotion that I've ever heard of, and we're very happy that it all worked out. And we expect even better service from you now for the next 40 years.
No pressure.
But yeah, exactly. But without further ado, let me get the official part out of the way first, where we'll actually make the appointment and then we'll do the oath of office. So this makes it very official. This part always seems to kind of, anticlimactic, but resolved to appoint Eric Seaman to the position of sergeant at an annual salary of $115,519, effective September 17th, 2017, subject to a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 52 weeks. I'll make the motion. Can I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. So we have two of our colleagues are away today, so but they passed along their congratulations. Well, let's get you sworn in. So it's easy to screw up you too. I'm not going to screw up your last name. So repeat after me. You raise your right hand. I, Eric J. Seaman,
I, Eric J. Seaman,
of the Village of Irvington,
of the Village of Irvington,
County of Westchester, State of New York,
County of Westchester, State of New York,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the Office of Police Sergeant
the duties of the Office of Police Sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Best of luck. Be safe. Thanks. Hold it up here. Little ceremonial pictures. Congratulations.
Thanks.
My pleasure. More ceremonial pictures? Sure. Get the family up here too, get some pictures?
Get some family. Come up.
Microphone in the way, are we good? Oh. Yeah. Otherwise, no one's a very skinny member of the family, the microphone.
Right, when I actually file.
Get one without the,
Right, switch it up.
do it up from there too, it's better. Good.
Yeah, he does.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mary.
Don't get paperwork either.
Thank you.
Look at me.
EJ, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Take it easy, guys.
Okay, beautiful family.
Thank you. Okay, it's good.
It's good seeing you, Dan. You doing well? Yeah, you look the same. Cheers. It's nice to meet the aunt and godmother.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Be well. Next up are announcements. The first announcement was the presentation of a AAA Pedestrian Safety Commendation and Community Traffic Safety Gold Award. Chief, I believe you accepted on our behalf.
Yes, sir.
I have a little piece of the press release. Irvington wins Gold Award in AAA's annual traffic safety program. The Village of Irvington has won a Gold Award in the AAA Northeast Community Traffic Safety Awards program. Director of Public Government Affairs and Traffic Safety John Cortlett announced today. The village was cited for its many traffic safety efforts, including the authorization to add a traffic enforcement officer to focus on distracted driving, child passenger safety, stopping DWI, as well as addressing pedestrian safety concerns. The village has continued to work on engineering initiatives, including new signage, roadway markings, and redesigning some crosswalks to make them more visible. The village has also received a special commendation for having 51 consecutive years with 0 pedestrian fatalities. Obviously, that's the number that, you know, we never want to see in our lifetime ever change, so we want to keep that up. But this is it's nice to be nationally recognized, and, you know, we obviously want to thank the police department. We want to thank the traffic committee, as well as the DPW, who does a lot of work in the field, as well as my colleagues, both those here tonight and those who are not here. You know, public safety and especially pedestrian and vehicular safety has been a real focus of ours for, you know, probably at least the last 5 years. I mean, it's always been a priority, but I think we've really focused on it. And I think, you know, we were willing to admit that we had problems. We still have problems. We're working to address them. But I think we've had great success with the dedicated officer. Where, you know, Larry and I were just meeting. We have, you know, several more, you know, enhancements to come that are physical in nature. Those took longer than we'd hoped, but we're starting to see some of those come into play now. Obviously, with the, you know, the kind of the monument area being the first big one that came, even though that's not done because of the Con Ed work that needs to be done first. But it's slow, but it's happening, and it's a real commitment. So it's very nice to be recognized. I think we actually have the two here, the Gold Award and the pedestrian safety accommodation. You can hold one, I'll hold one. I'll give you the big one. Great, thank you. Thank you. Put this back in your office now. Yeah, exactly. And here's your bag.
All right. You got room up on the wall for that?
Oh, yeah.
Gotta make room. Thank you, have a good night. Good night.
But 51 years, that's...
That doesn't count squares.
No.
That's
No.
pedestrians.
Have to be larger than the road. The next announcement is the Harvest Hayride is on this Saturday, October 21st at Matheson Park from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The Halloween Parade is on Sunday, October 29th at 3:15. Lineup is at 3 o'clock at the Immaculate Conception Church parking lot.
Brian, can I just say, as always, I always like to give that cheer because it's really a lot of fun. The kids dress up, the parents dress up. It's, you know, our own little Satiricon is the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a fun
Fellini
thing.
movie.
I will make
It's
the
fun.
announcement publicly that trick-or-treating is still on Halloween the 31st. People have asked if we can move it. The problem is that even if you move it, then people just have to get candy for 2 nights rather than 1. So trick-or-treating is still on October 31st. The Peter Rowley Turkey Trot is Sunday, November 19th at 1:30 p.m. at the Dow's Lane School. You can pre-register for that with the rec, or you can register the day of if you're not sure if you want to run or not. I'm not a big runner, but it's only 2.5 miles. It's relatively flat. There's only really kind of one hill, but once you get to Main Street, you're good. So if you're not sure if you want to do it, I suggest coming out. You can always walk. But, you know, I ran it with my 6-year-old the first year, and he finished. I'm not out there to win it. I'm just out there to finish. So it's an easy one. So come out and do it. It's fun. And then we also had 2 checks over $25,000 per our policy. Just want to announce them. One was for $30,495. That was to the Allied World Specialty Insurance for the Village Hall exterior from the capital budget, and the other one was $112,268.36, which was for the Aqueduct Crossing project, also out of the capital budget, to Tony Castile Inc. That's all I had. Other announcement I'll make is that last Saturday was the Rocktoberfest. There's way too many people to thank. I will just thank 2. Joe Archino really did a lot of the heavy lifting this year, and I think it was a great day. We were blessed with great weather, but we had a really good turnout. They're actually meeting now, kind of adding up all the expenses and donations and contributions. But we think it's a big success. It's already been a big success with the turnout and the amount of fun that was had. Lots of children's events this year, and there was a lot of attendance. So thanks to Joe, and the other person I want to thank was Ray Orvetsky, who does all of the kind of behind-the-scenes work for the bands with this music and sound. It's what he does for work, but he does it for us for free. And he takes it just as seriously as if we were paying him a lot of money for it, so I really appreciate that. Any other announcements? All right. So we had one piece of correspondence. I don't know if you wanted me to read some of it, or?
I'm happy to read it if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine. It's a nice segue then to public comment.
Cheryl Brandwine, 85 South Buckout Street. And I'm sorry to have missed the work session about the Astorbuck parking lot proposal. On Thursday, I was out of the country, but I'd like to read my letter into the record. It's signed by 10 families on South Buckout Street. I'll read their names and addresses at the end. Dear Mayor Smith and Village Trustees, in light of the most recent Astorbuck parking lot presentation, we wish to have the following read into the record at the next meeting. Number one, we urge each of you to review the Planning Board memo to the Board dated November 15th, 2016. The Planning Board clearly stated it does not support rezoning of the lots from residential to commercial to permit a parking lot, noting that creating more parking for the Astorbuck property will only encourage more cars to come park at the building and on the side streets around the building. The memo goes on to note that lack of parking for the Astorbuck property acts as a control on how many people and vehicles can be accommodated in that building. More parking will allow Astorbuck to rent to more businesses and draw more people and vehicles to the area and cause more traffic on Station Road. The Planning Board's clear opposition is the most persuasive argument for rejection of Astorbuck's petition. Why are you continuing to entertain design proposals when the Planning Board recommended against a parking lot at this location? Number two, the street level sightline is irrelevant. Each home on the east side of the street has second level windows which would have a direct view of this enormous corporate parking lot. Number three, we understand there's a debate as to whether there's a parking problem in the neighborhood. We do not object to Astorbuck building a parking lot. We object to the proposed location. We've urged you to consider viable alternatives for several years, including the Astor Street lot and DPW. Please find an alternative to destroying our quiet residential neighborhood. Number four, the character of the Astorbuck Corporation principles was made abundantly clear during the last hearing on this issue when Bill Thompson threatened to build low-income housing on the lots if we don't like the parking lot. People of all incomes are welcome in our community and should not be utilized as a joke or a threat. Lastly, we urge each of you to think, how would you feel if this project was proposed to be built across the street from your home? Would you like to have all the trees in your neighborhood removed to create a 45-car parking lot and its attendant noise, lights, and pollution? This should serve as a warning to the rest of Irvington residents. If it can happen to us, it can happen to you. If you value green space and bought your homes with the understanding that you live in a residential area, beware, the board may one day decide to rezone and line the pockets of corporate interests instead of protect its residents. In light of the above and the ongoing stress this has caused the neighborhood of South Buckout for over 5 years, we urge the mayor and trustees to make a final decision based on the planning board recommendations and fully decline any further request to build a parking lot on South Buckout Street. And the letter is signed by myself and my husband, Vembar and Kalarangathan, I'm sure I mutilated that, Sylvia and Daniel Greenberg, Melanie Roberts and Andrew Bergman, 79 South Buckout, 100 South Buckout, 87 South Buckout, 85 South Buckout, Donna and Kevin Gallagher, 77 South Buckout, Bruce Perez and Tracy Everding in 16 Station Road, Margaret Pasek, 12 Maple Street, Ryan and Kelly Tunstall at 8 Maple Street, Chris Wall, 58 West Clinton, and Maureen Papiel at 260 South Buckout Street. And so I guess, would like to ask if this is going to be further discussed tonight, because it was my understanding it could be. That's why we are present. But if not,
No, I don't think it's on tonight's agenda.
okay.
It will be, it'd likely be in the next, I'd say probably the November meeting, but nothing's been scheduled yet.
Okay, we saw it wasn't on the agenda, so we weren't sure, but I wanted to at least say our piece. Thank you.
You did a better job reading than I, so I appreciate it.
I'm not sure about that, but thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? If not, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Anyone have any questions or comments on that? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Very low margin of error. The next is we'll continue the public hearing to consider a local law modifying zoning near the Artisan Hudson train station. I think as we discussed last time, this is not going to be tonight when we vote because we had some major changes to it, to the proposed law. So, Marianne, did you want
Yeah.
to go through the changes?
Yeah, the board had a work session this past week on the draft local law to consider the changes that Hudson House had proposed to the law. We went through them all. Hudson House, a couple of the Hudson House people were, one of the Hudson House people was at the table, representative from APOA, and then Mr. DeGennaro, who was leasing the train station. And we went through each of their suggestions, took some, didn't take some, but I'll explain what all the changes are in the law. The new section here defines a new use, limited service carry-out restaurant. And the reason that's there is one of the permitted uses that we had was a restaurant, and there was a concern that maybe restaurants could generate too much traffic or other reasons. So it was modified to a limited service carry-out restaurant, which is defined as an establishment primarily engaged in the on-site preparation and retail sale of carry-out food and beverage products from a counter-type installation for consumption off the premises, but which may also include the incidental sale of ready-to-consume food and beverages for consumption on the premises. And it gave examples of specialty delicatessens, coffee shops, ice cream shops, pizzerias, and bakeries. It excludes restaurants and formula fast food establishments. I'm not going to read every word of this, but just so people understand what kind of food establishments would be allowed. Okay, then another change that was made, this was based on a recommendation from Hudson House, in the section at the beginning of the railroad district that states its purpose. A sentence was added that said, additionally, the regulations for the railroad district are intended to preserve the exterior appearance of the existing railroad station buildings by allowing for the adaptive reuse of the buildings so that their economic viability will ensure the building's preservation. Remember this, the railroad district has two railroad buildings in it, the Irvington one and the Artisan Hudson one. The list of permitted uses was modified, not too much, mostly the same uses we had before. I know it's a typo on it, it says United States Post Office, but United States Post Office was added because that's an existing use there. Restaurants was changed to limited service carry-out restaurants. For accessory uses, let's clarify that there couldn't be any accessory buildings, accessory uses customarily incidental to a permitted use, but no accessory buildings. And then canopies were stricken because it's irrelevant, because there's another provision that says the outside of the building can't be changed. On the use, I'm sorry, what?
Signs with only accordance to edited sentences. On the
No, signs was, that's what we had before. Under use regulations, any use there has to have a special permit, and this has the standards for the planning board in addition to the regular standards in the code. And they are that the proposed use will preserve the exterior of the former train station in its entirety and will not require any changes to the exterior of the building other than signs permitted under this chapter. This was something the board discussed at the meeting. This was actually their own language. And a provision added that adequate provision is made for the storage and collection of garbage and recyclables. That was a suggestion of Hudson House. The other two standards are that the proposed use will have a minimal vehicular impact on the surrounding area and that there's adequate off-street parking, but that was in the previous draft. For parking, a requirement was put in for the post office, about one space for the post office. And then the changes on the outdoor seating only would change it from restaurant to limited service carry-out restaurant, rather than restaurant. And then the outdoor seating, using the outdoor seating area was now 8 to 10 for the whole week. Now, they were different. Previously, it could be open later on Friday and Saturday, but it was changed to 8 to 10 all days, and it clarifies that it can't be used when the establishment to which it's accessory is not open. And those are the changes from the last draft.
I think we, again, tried to come up with the middle ground of, having the ability to have a successful, business there while, hoping to preserve the character of the neighborhood, which is residential. It is a unique residential neighborhood in the fact that there's, hundreds of cars that drive down there every day to go to the train ready, but, we didn't want to add off-timed or weekend traffic that would be, kind of exacerbate the situation, especially because we already have a waiting list for the train station. We do understand that the applicant is going to be adding, I think, 14 spots. That's required by Metro North anyway. But I think what we've done is we've kind of, in my opinion anyway, kind of found that middle ground to try to make this a hopefully viable business, thriving business, as well as kind of preserve the nature of the neighborhood. So that's what we're trying to achieve. Hopefully we split the atom well, and it'll work out for everybody.
Brian, I should say, because these changes, they're not huge, but they're significant enough changes that you have to have another public hearing on it, which gives us time then also to send it to the planning board for their recommendation. This is, under our code, if there's a petition to the Board of Trustees for a change, then it has to go to the planning board. This wasn't exactly a petition, it was a quick request, but it makes sense, I think, in any event, for it to go to the planning board, so that the planning board would kick in before we hear from them before the next public hearing.
They were opened up for 2 seconds to the public, so. Did you guys want to, do you have any comments on this? I know we've met on it. So.
No, I think felt we had an extensive conversation at the work session.
Yes.
It was very, very
On Thursday.
productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I will now open it up for public comment. If you come on up, please.
Good evening. My name is Ann Myers. I live at 5 Bertha Place in Ardsley Park. I've been there 40 years. I raised my hand initially. I don't know what the schedule is for the public hearings. I could have gone on the website, I suppose,
No,
but really nobody knows that this is up for discussion for the most part.
Well,
But with regard to extending it through early November, I know that the Ardsley Park Property Owners Association has an annual meeting on, I think, this coming Sunday, where I hope that most of the residents will become aware of this. The notification process, because I was part of the special permit with the planning board, of 100 feet next to the property doesn't allow really the neighborhood to know what's going on. And unless there is some institution, such as the APPOA, to communicate that, it's a disservice to the residential neighborhood to know these things go on.
Well, I'll ask you, are you signed up for our email blasts?
Pardon?
Are you signed up for our email blasts?
No.
Okay. And you can
So,
also-
okay, that could be my fault.
We have email blasts, we have,
Okay.
we have had, I think, 4 public meetings about this already. We're going to have at least one more. APOA
Okay.
has sent us several comments. They said that they spoke to their residents. Hudson House has sent us several
Yeah,
comments.
so-
I would take exception with that.
Hudson House and APOA have both sat on our work session last week and the previous work
Okay,
session.
all right,
So
that's fine.
I think I'm a little, I think I'm not hiding it well, but I'm a little bit annoyed because people come and they always say there's no way to know these things. We go out of our way. If you have a better way for us to know this,
All right, I
other than
appreciate
spending
that.
thousands of dollars to mail, because that's obviously, but there's also, this is the first step. To get it, there's gonna be like 3 more steps. There'll be a special permit issued.
Right.
You know, so we're not, we're in like the 3rd inning, and I think we've already spent a lot of time trying to publicize this
All
into
right.
the 3rd inning.
But also, when it goes to the planning board, they have to put when the application goes to the planning board, they put a sign out at the,
In front,
in front
right.
of the property that says that the property is,
Okay, I
Under
mean, I
consideration
will
for action.
certainly have not done my due diligence in that regard.
but-
But I would like to make some comment.
Sure, I think the
At
best
this
thing is
late
to make
date.
sure you sign up for the email blast, because that's the easiest way to get in the agendas and
Right.
everything.
I'm troubled by a number of things, and the things that I've looked at were the revised or proposed revisions to the zoning code, as well as the entry from Hudson House. And I'm troubled by the emphasis on the restoration of the building as a historic property, as reflective of the nature of the community. But we are talking about new usage that is in complete contrast to tradition, a residential neighborhood, and to simply have a historic building where, 50 to 100 students are sitting outside, having coffee, taking away whatever they want. To me, that is a significant change, and it no longer is really a residential community. So I disagree with the emphasis that Hudson House provided in that regard. Secondly, I do agree, and they made the point, that the Ardsley-on-Hudson train station and alternative use, because clearly Dobbs Ferry and Irvington are the examples for what you're considering. But in my view, and as they suggested in their letter, it's a very different situation. It's clear Irvington Station is in a commercial district, surrounded by commercial entities, parking, whatever. Not comparable. Dobbs Ferry is very similar to Irvington, but not as developed in that regard. But it is not in the middle of a very old and traditional residential neighborhood. So you are changing the character of the neighborhood by offering something like this. That's my opinion. I don't know what other opinions have been, but clearly you are changing the nature of the neighborhood by trying to find or accommodate this alternative use. And I think we're not talking about it, but from what I've heard is that this is really to accommodate Mercy College, that are willing to enter into some arrangement with the leasee of the station. And I understand his situation, that he has to make it commercially viable. But Mercy College is really, being here 40 years, I have seen Mercy creep. And this is a giant step in terms of the Mercy creep influencing our neighborhood. And once you open that door, it will never be closed. And let me tell you why. Because there is no enforcement. There is absolutely no enforcement. Saturday night, I was sitting in my yard. I'm within 100 feet. And there was music on the Commercy campus. Fine, it's fine. Sometimes it's annoying, but it's fine. But if I were to call the Irvington police, they'd say we can't help you. If I were to call the Dobbs Ferry police, they say it's not our problem. Because there's been another situation like this, a really bad situation, late at night. And there was, nobody picked up the phone at Mercy. And this is a constant problem that nobody takes responsibility for. You know, you can wait weeks to go to the planning board, and maybe they'll think about it, but there's no immediate correction of this. And I think that is a problem, and it will only be magnified by what you're considering. Another thing, and I addressed the planning board on this issue a week or two ago when they were renewing the permit, and the unintended consequences of the growth in the Mercy population and the amount of traffic that was coming through the main entrance was that they rightly encouraged more people to take public transportation. Great idea. However, for whatever reason, they are accommodating that population that on average is 18 to 21, maybe a few professors. They have 4 vans an hour driving through Ardsley Park, speeding through Ardsley Park, obstructing the vehicular traffic at the station while they wait to pick up their 18 to 21-year-olds to take them to campus. And I've discussed that, I made a point, and they were receptive to that, but again, it's the whole issue of traffic will continue to be a problem. And if you're allowing them, 15 plus more spaces that go with a station, the extended hours that you call limited, but 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week, is that limited? That's not normal commercial hours. And I can only say that it's going to continue to be a problem in terms of speeding, trash at the station, trash thrown out of their cars as they come up from the station. So these are all issues that affect the neighborhood, and they don't affect Hudson House, but they affect the residential neighborhood that I think you need to think about. As an aside, because I'll take my platform here, in terms of traffic, and I wanted to say something when you were speaking to the chief of police, and I fully recognize and appreciate everything they're trying to do with traffic in Irvington. I think they've made huge strides, and I commend them. But there is a traffic problem on Ardsley Avenue West going down to the station, and I would ask you to look into this because there are no effective speed limit signs, none whatsoever. You've installed stop signs. Sometimes they're observed, sometimes they're not. There is no supervision of traffic, particularly at high rush hour where there is speeding. And even when there isn't. On Saturday, we were on the street. Somebody was speeding down Ardsley Avenue. We asked them to slow down, and they gave us the finger. So, we need some help here. And, we are a neighborhood, we're an old neighborhood, just like many other old neighbors in Irvington. And, we ask for your help. We ask for your consideration. We ask that you appreciate our situation. And it's not that we don't want somebody able to be able to afford what they've entered into in the station, but we're talking about possible changes here that could have significant impact on the neighborhood and will never, ever be reversed and maybe never enforced. So we ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hi.
Alex McLaughlin, I'm at 47 Ardsley Avenue West. I spoke last time at the open hearing, so I'll just be brief and blunt. I think that, in general, whatever ends up happening with the permit and the use of the space, I think we want obviously minimal impact on a residential neighborhood. So in my mind, that would mean no increase in traffic, that whatever business is installed there would capitalize on the existing traffic that goes through Ardsley on Hudson Station. So, it's hard for me to go through all the details and what's written here, but I think that the spirit of what's written there should capture that whatever business is installed there, it would just capitalize on the existing traffic, not increase traffic, although I understand these 14 spots may be made available. I think you still don't want more cars going down Ardsley Avenue West and then coming up Hudson as well. I think no one's looking to have like a hangout spot down at the station. It's a very quiet neighborhood, especially after dark. So no one's looking to have a situation where there's going to be any late night hangouts. Even the 10 p.m. would be late. There's a lot of little kids in the neighborhood, more families moving in with young kids, and we want it to be a safe, quiet neighborhood with predominantly occupied by its residents and not by people that are maybe transient and coming through. So particularly no one's interested in a Mercy College hangout at Ardsley on Hudson Station. So those are my words, my thoughts. Hope you guys appreciate that. I think if you lived in the neighborhood, you would feel the same way.
Thanks.
George Schaefer-Decker, Hudson House. I just had a quick question, really, not so much as a comment. I'm trying to understand exactly what happens next. I gather that on November 16th, you'll have another public hearing about this particular issue because of all the changes.
I think it's actually November 6th, which is our
November
next,
6th,
our
okay.
next meeting. So this will be reposted, basically we have to have public notice if there's a significant change to the law. So
That'll go to the planning board before then or after?
Planning
Before planning board. And that'll also be publicly noticed.
Well, no, the
that's just
planning
more for their
board.
comments,
No.
yeah. That's for their comments to us about this particular.
And that won't be in a public meeting or a public session of any
Well, it
sort?
would have to be at a anything would have to happen at a public meeting, but it's not going to
residents
be any
would-
special notice.
Would be commenting during that planning board hearing or not?
Well, no, it's really for the deliberation of the planning board.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
more their input
So
on
your
this,
comments
yeah.
would come here.
Okay.
But then eventually, if this played out and it gets adopted as, maybe as amended or whatever, there would be a special permit process anyway. That's a separate process.
Yeah, we understand that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
So-
it's conceivable that they might meet at not one of their regular meetings to discuss this. It would have to be a public notice because it's a public meeting, but they don't have to have public comment at it or anything.
So
They
we're
just
asking
have
them
a
their
public
opinion
work
of
session.
this.
Okay.
That they're getting public. Even you could send them a letter or something, I'm sure.
Okay. And does that constitute the full secret process? You mentioned secret last time because
Well,
it
no,
had to go through
no,
secret.
what the board would have to do with the, before they enact this, is go through the environmental assessment form and determine whether there could be any significant environmental impact.
And they do that in the next public hearing?
Yeah,
The November
they might
6th
do it at
hearing,
the
most
next
likely?
meeting. I mean, certainly they'll do it before they vote on it,
Uh-huh.
before they vote on the law.
Okay. So essentially, this process is likely to end on the 6th.
It's possible,
Possible, I don't know.
Okay.
Because if there's
No,
more
you
changes.
can't say likely,
Well,
because
I
when
guess-
somebody,
But there's no other secret hearings or...
I mean, it's conceivable that if in going through the environmental assessment form, the planning board, the board of trustees says, oh man, that could be a significant impact, maybe we better, do some more studies. My guess is that's not likely, but I don't know, So, and if that were the case, well, then it would take longer.
And so that was the extent of my question. I had one nagging legal thing that I worry a little bit about. I don't know whether it matters at all. I mean, the post office is now a legal use. The applicant has signed a lease with the post office, but not in accordance with a special permit process. There's no one who doesn't want the post office in it, from what I understand, and it's always been there as an existing non-conforming use.
Yeah.
Is that something that needs to be ironed out? Thank you.
This law won't affect it, no.
Any other public comment? There will be other chances. Okay, so I guess we'll just continue the
Oh, let me just say one other
sure.
thing, because remember one of the questions open at the work session was how the lease defines the building, you know, so we would know where this should apply. And the lease defines it as, you know, the train station building and then some area around it for parking. But I don't think that the law should be written for anything other than the train station building, so I would leave it the way it is. And it's consistent with the, with the lease, which Mr. DeGenero sent to me this morning.
So this parking lot that's a requirement of the lease is, what, is that outside of village zoning?
No, it's not, but it does not, if he has, all this requires is that he have parking spaces. We don't need to make that part of the, you know, this little district.
Okay, let me try one more time. He's obligated, as my understanding goes, to build a parking lot under his lease.
All right.
I mean, I don't know, that's what's been said,
All right.
right? So then that parking lot has to be in some village zone, doesn't it? So what,
Well, it's in the railroad zone. It's in the railroad zone.
oh, so you're, oh,
It's just not in this, we've got the railroad zone and within this, the railroad district. And within the railroad district, we have these two little tiny districts, each of which covers the train
okay,
station.
I understand. I thought for some reason, you know, we were looking at having this parking lot being in a, the only thing I could see is it's a residential zone.
No, I think, yeah, no, that this part of this, the railroad district, yeah,
Should be,
It would have to be, yeah.
right.
I guess that's the thing we should verify, but I guess it probably.
Well, I've got the map here, but I'm virtually certain, I wouldn't have even thought about it
It
until
tracked-
you raised it.
Well, it tracks Metro North's property.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's got it.
so
Okay,
gotta
wait, let me
be,
just look. I mean, I sort of know it by heart down here, but,
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
So,
Chair Schieferdecker, again, Hudson House. In terms of the boundaries for subsection C,
yeah, no, the railroad district runs all the way up to include the Artsy on Hudson property on there.
don't we need to define the boundaries of subsection C
No, it's just.
to
the building.
include the parking area?
No, it's
Because,
just the building.
so as part of the special permit process, the planning board would review everything to do with the parking area, which would then be
Okay.
outside of this new zone?
No, it says that there has to be adequate parking. It doesn't say that the adequate parking has to be in that district. They have to have adequate parking under his control. And he does have, assuming, you know, whatever use he had needed 10 parking spaces, he has 10 parking spaces under his control. So that's how they would review it. And
Currently,
let's say he had,
the railroad.
let me
sorry,
finish.
Sorry.
Let's say he had to do work on it that required site plan approval, we would have to get site plan approval for the work he was doing on the parking lot.
But is his parking lot a allowable use within the railroad district?
Parking is allowed in the railroad district.
Is it? I don't think so.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that and I think what
Okay,
the question that was being asked here.
That's a good point.
Is-
I'll double check that, because then we do have the accessory uses, so it would.
I just think it would make more sense if the boundary of the district included the area that
Yeah, I
it
see what
intends to
you're
park
saying.
it.
Yeah.
Therefore, it
Okay.
fall under the special permit
That's a
and
good
all the
point.
landscaping regulations and everything to do with it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, well, all the landscaping regulations, all that stuff apply anyway, because those are part of site plan approval, and they would apply to any work that needs to be, any work that would be done virtually anywhere in the village, no matter what district it's in. Okay, thanks.
May I ask a few questions?
sure.
What do you mean by the harmonious development of the village?
It's all through the code. It's a regular site plan standard when you review stuff, that it's harmonious with the district, that it's not something that, if it's a residential neighborhood, it's not, well, if it's something in a residential neighborhood, that it wouldn't ruin a residential neighborhood, or if it's in a business district, that, but this is in its own district.
Isn't that the issue here, though?
That's why the board came up with uses that they thought would be consistent and help.
Well, is a takeout place harmonious with a residential neighborhood where there's no other?
Well,
Just think about it.
I have, and I think that this is a slightly different residential neighborhood, because I would say my residential neighborhood doesn't have a train station in it. And I think the vast majority of the use will be people who go to the train station. So I don't see this as a huge additional, it's frankly, it's just not an easy place to get to. Like, I don't think you're gonna have a lot of people from out of town going to get their coffee at a coffee shop there.
Well, if you keep the hours open till 10 p.m., is it going to become a student hangout or a local hangout with additional traffic after rush hour?
I've also been to the space. It's not very big, and so
Well,
I think that that's a limiting factor.
That's another
So-
question I have. You define the outside area early on in the permit, but then you extensively talk about outside area and outdoor seating. Does that assume that maybe they're going to encompass a larger area that's currently landscaped, particularly south of the station? When you talk about outdoor area 10 feet from the building, which is basically the cement sidewalk south, but then you extensively talk about outdoor seating. Is that where it's going to be? Or are
Wasn't
we
there a
talking
discussion
about
of-
maybe?
I think there was a discussion or a presentation of the idea that there was parking, and there was seating area between the building and the platform. There'd be enough to put a few tables in that area, if I remember what we were talking about.
So that's what you intend when you talk about outdoor seating?
Well, we'd have to be within the district, and I think that's, if,
Within the district and within the property he's leasing.
yeah.
Okay. So by virtue of the fact that there happens to be a train station in our residential neighborhood, it's different than your neighborhood. But does it mean that it has to be the same as Irvington, the same as Dobbs Ferry?
No.
Are
it's
you
not.
familiar what Phillips Manor did?
I am.
Okay.
I also think,
And they have had courage to stand up and say, not commercial, but this is an alternative use, the Writer's Center there, that we feel is appropriate for this residential, entirely residential neighborhood at a train station.
So that's a wonderful idea, and I think if you wanted to have a writer's center there, you could have a writer's center there. We don't say you can't have something like that there.
Right.
So that's,
But you're, by opening up to other commercial things,
but we're also potentially making it a viable place for this person. I mean, the alternate is, you could say you could have nothing there, and then what happens to the building?
take it down.
So you don't,
I mean, you want to restore a historic structure and then change the use and the character of the neighborhood just to have
Have you
that
been there?
historic structure. I mean, I'm all for preservation.
there's a balance here, though. If this was
What
going to
is
be.
the balance,
If it's
though?
going to be a 1,000-seat restaurant.
The balance is you're catering to Mercy College and the leasee, or the leaseor, whatever it is. But you're not balancing the interests of the neighborhood. And we are your residents.
Well, we've heard from a lot of the residents, and most of them aren't that upset about it. So I think that maybe your opinion is different than, I mean, I've spoken to many people that are members of APOA. They're.
That live right in that neighborhood?
Some of them do. There's a lot, I mean, I haven't actually looked on the map, but I've heard from a lot of people. You're the first person that's had strong feelings like this. So I'm listening to you now, and I'm still trying to balance. I mean, personally, I don't want to see the building just crumble and fall. I think it's actually worth preserving it, and I think it can have limited uses. I mean, I know that Hudson House really appreciates having a post office there. It's really part of, the Hudson House experience is having that post office there and having their PO boxes there. So we're balancing, there's 80 families that live there, so I'm hearing them. I'm hearing you that live on Bertha Place, I'm listening to you, I'm trying to weigh it all. And that's what we've been trying to do this whole process, is trying to weigh all the different stations. Mercy College, to me, has not even entered into my mind, to be quite frank, because to me, they have everything they're doing. If this is good for them, great. If they want to get coffee on the way to the train, I think it's wonderful when the Mercy College students take the train, because then it takes all the traffic off the streets.
Absolutely.
It's also they've proposed, that we're working with them to build their sidewalks, so they don't have to have the 4
That would
vans.
be a great addition.
All those things are great, and I think that there's a lot of positive. I also think that President Hall has gone out of his way to try to be a better neighbor.
I agree.
So all those things are.
I agree. I've had many conversations.
And Mercy College has been here even longer than 40 years, so I think that we're
50
trying
years.
to work with them.
I agree,
And
but-
trying to make things better. And
but-
with the speeding, we have our police officer, our new traffic enforcement officer, go there regularly. We have 1 officer. It's an important place to patrol, it is. Is Main Street important? It is. All these places, everyone has issues. So, we're focused on those. We're trying to balance all the input we're receiving, and we're very happy to receive your input today as well.
Let me ask you one last question with regard to traffic and an attempt to address the traffic problems, particularly on Ardsley Avenue. Who do we approach? And how do we do that?
I would say that
It's already been done, frankly. The letter that was written,
Well, there's one written
Yeah.
to the traffic comment
yes,
committee.
and they reviewed that, and the
And
first order of
response
business is to gather data. So we're gathering
Well, who is
data.
gathering data? Should I
Villages.
sit out on Ardsley Avenue from 7 a.m. until,
You asked for an answer to a question, and I answered it.
Okay.
We're gathering data. We have a device that gathers data for us. It will give us rock-solid information about the quantities and the speed of the traffic going by. And
is
based
that
on that,
is that a digital sign, or is there something else there that
it's a
you
digital
don't want to know
device.
about?
No, it's a digital device. It's a
There is
black
no
box.
digital device there.
Okay.
Have you looked at the traffic,
Would you
the
like to
speed
talk-
limit signs? Do you know where they are?
We understand what all the complaints are, and we're looking at all of that, absolutely. We know that there's some things that need to be corrected.
Okay. So there's nothing more to be said or
I've got a
any
point
more?
of order here. I just really think that a discussion like this should have been noticed as a public hearing. This is public comment right now. There should be more people hearing this. We should have the entire board ready to discuss rather than this Brian
Okay,
being a
Jeff.
backstop.
Oh, no, about the traffic.
This
you mean?
down is a continuation of the
This is a
public
public
hearing.
hearing.
Oh, no, we said it wasn't a public hearing. We said
No, it
this.
is. It's a continuation.
Oh, it's a continuation, sorry, never mind. I thought we were still, you're right. We're very past the public comment. Never mind.
Okay, so nothing more
Sorry.
needs to be done on that, as you say.
No, we didn't say that. We said we're gathering data.
Okay. If we have additional
You
concerns,
can email myself and the chief of police. It's mcerrone@irvingtonny.gov and bsmith@irvingtonny.gov. You can do it in real time. You can say, cars are sort of, you can actually, even better, is call 591-8080 if something's happening immediately. That's the desk.
okay,
And report it. I know they're very, very responsive to those types of things. If you say, every day at 7:30, I see cars blowing through the stop sign, they'll send someone in.
okay, that's
I
great.
think that's the best way to do it.
How critical is the time frame of the cafe or of the outdoor night, 8 to 10? I'm just wondering how critical that is to a business model, and what is the actual usage, typical usage? What's the most, the profile of student usage? How does that map against it? You know what I mean? Like if most of the students are coming in between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., or...
Well, they do come in later now. I mean, they've extended
Well,
their
I don't know
hours.
the numbers, I'm just saying
Yeah.
we'd probably want to look at that in order to get some sense about whether those proposed hours of operation make sense or not.
Just go to the public hearing.
Well, they've been extended, particularly on the weekends, too.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to, there's one thing I wanted to read. This was from a POA's letter dated 9/13/2017. It's the third paragraph. As you know, the station is a focal point of our neighborhood and a portal to Ardsley Park and its wonderful historic setting. John Michael's application to the village to rezone the station is essential to ensuring that this structure is vital and remains part of our community for the future. The proposed commercial uses are also essential to fund the costly capital renovations and repair that the station needs so badly. We agree that John Michael's proposed tenants, an architectural firm and a coffee shop run by Mercy College, are in keeping with the quiet, limited commercial activity that is appropriate for the setting. Tonight you'll be considering guidelines that will need to be adhered to by the current applicant, but also by applicants that will come after John Michael. And again, that's, from a POA, so.
Thank you.
So I'd also talk to Nicholas Moore, the president of APOA, if you disagree.
Well, he didn't distribute that to the members of the
Interesting.
So could we ask Mercy for like a profile of usage that data they have, so we can see what at least the students coming through the station looks like? They must know something from, if they have the buses running, they must know, have some kind of it's not a demographic, I don't know what you want to say.
Schedule of usage, I don't know. I guess we could ask for that.
Do you want me to call Tom Simmons? I could call Tom and see if he has any idea.
Sure.
Yeah, if they have something, if they keep track of that, it would be interesting to see. Because maybe we're asking to keep it open too late,
Yeah, I'll ask him.
as an example.
Pardon?
I said as an example.
Okay. I'll call.
But again, that public hearing is going to stay open at least until November 6th, if not later. The next item is approval of agreements for Logistics LLC for financial accounting software. Did you want to review that, Brenda?
Be happy to. Our billing software for water and sewer has some deficiencies we'd like to enhance with a portal that goes with the public and some other billing enhancements. I'm sorry, I'm missing that. Okay. Yeah, I got it.
So it doesn't,
So anyway, so we've been reviewing various software companies and for the different applications that they offer. And the one we've decided to utilize is Logix. And what we'll be doing is changing over to Logix our software for water, sewer, tax receivable, and general receipts. Ultimately, we'll most probably convert the rest of our financial packages as well. It's a current, up to the date, up to the minute, fully integrated software company that specializes in municipal software. And we're very confident with the principals of the company and their support people. Some of their support people worked for the company that we currently utilize before they were sold multiple times. And they come with a lot of experience, and I believe we'll have a very successful migration.
does the contract call out those particular functions?
We especially wanted to do the graph.
No,
And then the
I'm
portal.
saying what I read, I
Right.
don't know if I saw that it was listing, I probably skipped over it,
It's
but
all right.
did it list like water department billing?
Right, that would be called the utility billing program.
Oh, that's what the utility
That's
billing
utility
encompasses.
billing. Right, right.
So you already talked to them about the history of usage type of chart that we've been harping on for the water
Yes.
bill. Yeah.
Yes, so we'll be able to put that onto the bill in, if we want a graph format or just listed the usage. But we're looking at the graph, I thought that was a nice display to have on there.
And you can get that information on the bill even if someone isn't paying through the online portal, right? I mean,
It'll be on the printed bill,
yeah.
as well as the ability to go to the portal, open an account, and see your
can see it
data,
there.
your past usage. Make payments online, make payments one time or
But you
automatic.
can see it on the paper bill as well.
As well on the paper bill, right.
And the cost, the monthly maintenance cost compared to what our current software is?
Well, there's two ways of going. We can either purchase the programs the way we have now and have them resident on our server, then pay an annual fee for ongoing maintenance and support. Looking at how things have evolved in the industry, we're now looking to do it hosted. So basically, it's in the cloud. That would provide us quicker updates to the software program. Also a backup with them. I was somewhat concerned, was the first time we've had a cloud-based application. And what we'll be also receiving from them is
quarterly backup of all our data that's viewable in the same format as we see it in the program. So while I can't utilize that program to make a new bill, I can look at all the prior data and we can serve it back. We can keep it on our server. So that's a good, I felt a good comfort level for us to have as well.
Do you know what, I mean, you know, cloud-based services now are both this, the craze and also, you know, there's strengths and there's also extremely weak links. You know, Amazon cloud service goes down and, you know, literally hundreds of thousands of businesses go dark. Well, that problem has to be resolved. Do you know who they're hosting with? No. Could we find out who they're, because if they're not on one of the major names, we should question that right off the bat. I mean, there's just a handful of, you know, major cloud service companies that are really have good reputations.
So Brenda, I have a question about the program. If a resident simply doesn't want to get any mail and has automatic payment, can you opt into,
Yes,
don't
you can.
send anything?
You can get an e-bill.
But even not even get the bill just online?
I'll double check. I believe an e-bill would replace the printed bills,
Right, 'cause why waste the mailing?
the extra mailing.
Right, I think that would be a good thing to have.
And Brenda, this software pricing, how does it compare with the other systems that you're looking at?
So we were pleased with the pricing. There are others that were more expensive. We really wanted, we were satisfied with the pricing. When you go hosted, it's less money up front. So you pay less up front, but then it's higher maintenance. It's a little bit higher maintenance than what we're currently paying now, but I'm getting more features.
And you
Getting
get
the portal.
free upgrades, effectively.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Then we're also looking at the budget, what we've budgeted for this project. We can utilize some of that money in some ways to offset the higher monthly cost because it's not costing anywhere near the original budgeted amount. I did some analysis on it, and 4 years was about the payback, looking either you would purchase it and own it and then pay the monthly, or pay less and pay a higher monthly. The payback was about 4 years where you would break even. But I think that's where the future's going right now. The other consideration is that we have to maintain our server, and that's another expense to constantly upgrade and, you know, purchase a new server for.
But don't you need it anyways?
You know, I don't know longevity.
For other things, Larry?
It's largely a file server, so the processing power is not exactly there. So taking some of this processing offline.
And your Outlook is running on it, or is Outlook running in the cloud?
No, Outlook is on a separate email server.
Separate server.
Yeah.
I did ask A1 what, you know, their thoughts were going hosted versus cloud-based, and they were supportive of the cloud-based.
And this won't, or how does this affect, or are you going to be able to continue to put data into Facility Dude?
Facility Dude is, we go in.
I know it's
it
not.
has nothing
It's
to
not.
do with our billing, it's our usage.
Municipal usage, right. So
Right.
there's nothing that's continuing to put our records into there.
They're totally separate applications.
Just making sure.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to, that would impact it.
Because otherwise you'd have to come up with a new software with a better name.
Yeah, what we're looking to do also is have a better counter set up. So it would be with the credit card, it would be almost like a point-of-sale register. And we'd be able to then do receipting on the spot, eliminate hand receipts that we're currently writing. So it would be with the actual printer at the counter, and when you come in, you get receipted on the spot. It gets put into the data, our database, and ultimately, it would give us a capacity to also decentralize some of our receiving processes.
So Miscellaneous permits, however, would not be encompassed, or is that a?
They would be doing that too, just any receiving. Ultimately, so this package, because, some packages are standalone, but they encompass other packages. So this would be all receivables. So that's the first leg of this migration. So it'll be all receivables, be including our tax billing. And then we'd also give the ability to do the online tax payments, and those types of enhancements. So it'll be tax billing, we call them general receipts, so it's all your miscellaneous receipts that I receive from the recreation department, building department, a multitude, it's all the receiving that come, all the revenues that come.
Building permit payments come through the clerk's office, right, or not? I forget how that-
They take, basically, yes, we record them all.
So you're happy with this decision?
I am happy, and the thing is that the software program we're currently using, it's really antiquated. The company that owns it is not putting any additional resources to its further development. So it's a dead end as far as trying to get any other enhancements. If anything, it will be phased out, because personnel has been really cut that has been working on it or supporting it. The company's been sold now 3 times. So I don't see that. We looked at what they were proposing us to change to, and it's been only unsuccessful bad stories as far as migration. So we're comfortable with the people we're working with. And we've had some success stories. I believe you're gonna see more and more governments, local ones, going with this company because they're doing a lot of presentations. Mamaroneck has taken them on for the payroll software. And we're at Westchester, you see, the company we were using was very strong in New York State. And because this current software is not performing to the standard that it should be, and there's no further enhancements, most of them are looking at other companies. And right now, I think they will have a lot of business to this. We'll be moving over to Logix.
Will there be a time when you do the actual transfer that things will be shut down, or?
No. What we would do is, you'd probably be running a dual process for 1 month to just make sure that everything is working accurately. But the switch over would be seamless to the public, because the public doesn't have any access. And for us, it would be really, when it's up and running and it's tested, and you'd be doing a dual billing for 1 month.
So if a resident gets some kooky bill, like.
So we're not doing anything that we're not pulling the plug on the current software. So you can always use the current software if indeed you felt so you're not gonna migrate over there until you're comfortable with the product that is working. You're not unplugging one and plugging another, you have the current one still working.
Okay.
We're also moving over data. So we're moving significant data, so we have it all on one platform. But we also have the old data in the old program.
So you're looking for us to approve this tonight,
So,
so you can get started on?
unless there's something else you'd like me to get, I can get back to you on the who's hosting.
I don't think that should be the gating factor, but I do think that it would be worthwhile to know that before you actually sign on the dotted line. Just be sure it's a reputable cloud system that's actually got some decent uptime specifications. Let's put it that way.
So you're okay with us
I think it's a
approving
great-
tonight?
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to do. I just think that that's the one, it's kind of, sometimes it's a security, have they been breached, that kind of thing, because people are really focused now. If you can get the platform, i.e. like, don't want to pick on Amazon, but Amazon Web Services, you get their platform and you can do a lot of, make a lot of chaos for people.
Well, the CIA uses Amazon now, so that was interesting.
They also use, what's his name, Kaspersky, whatever, the virus.
That's the Russian one.
The Russian one, yeah. which they now will not use, but
Yeah.
until about 6 months ago.
Okay, let's do it.
Resolved to approve an agreement for software installation and migration services and a software license agreement with Logix LLC for financial accounting software, and to authorize the clerk treasurer to sign the agreement subject to the final approval of the village attorney. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're welcome, County.
I'm here.
Here we are.
Put me back here.
Offer of dedication of Padwee Lane. Still titled Padwee Lane. Someone, Larry, or,
Well, I was,
just want to go over kind of where we are in the process.
oh, yeah, I
If we
know,
forgot
it
from last
seems like so many steps in this, but you have to have this resolution where you formally say, hey, we're gonna consider, accepting the street, which, you, informally agreed to, and then set a public hearing for it, and the public hearing will be next meeting. I think the one outstanding question, Larry and I kind of punted in drafting the resolution is what they're gonna call it. I think they were having a meeting last night. Didn't you meet last night?
We did meet last night.
Did you decide on a name?
We have a couple of brainstorm we want to.
Okay.
Not finalized yet.
We said we had some time, right? Right.
I mean,
Well, we had hoped, yeah, okay.
yeah, I mean, the next meeting is when they would actually accept the roadway. It would be nice to have a name in there.
Yeah, well,
But
it's a village street, because you might want to tell them what your suggestions are, and the
Yeah.
board may be disposed toward one or the other.
It's ultimately the trustees'
Ooh,
choice.
it's up to us.
But I think they've said to you before that they'd entertain suggestions, so.
Smith Circle.
Yeah, exactly.
So what were your,
Is it too early to say?
No, it's too early. We had a lot of wine last night.
You should hear after whatever grape you guys were drinking, you know?
We know
Merlot Lane.
we wanted to be historic with integrity of what was happening in that area. So we really try to stay within that framework, which was really good. But we do know we're going to get back to you well before November 6th.
If you tell us the date when you need to know.
Tomorrow.
Probably the Thursday before November 6th, whatever that is, November 1st, I don't know, whatever that Thursday is.
Second.
All right, I'll make sure.
Yeah,
Why don't we say, if you can get it to us by Halloween, that'd be perfect.
yeah, that's an easy one.
yeah, no, then that gives the board,
Exactly right. You can put up different signs, get some
Right, I
feedback.
mean, we'll put up,
I mean, it gives the board a chance to, like, say no if you want to name it Trump Lane or something.
You give us a couple of options.
Cyclotron. The cyclotron, just like right back there, you know? So I'm just gonna read this then.
Okay.
Whereas on January 27th, 1988, the Irvington Planning Board approved the Padwee subdivision as reflected on the subdivision map prepared for Dr. Howard Padwee in the village of Irvington, made by Ward Carpenter Engineers, Inc., dated 10/23/86, and filed in the office of the county clerk, Division of Land and Records, Westchester County, New York, on 4/26/88 as map number 23224. And whereas the Padwee subdivision included a cul-de-sac off Ardsley Avenue West intended to be dedicated as a public road and currently known as Padwee Lane, and whereas the owners of the 3 lots fronting on with rights of ingress and egress over Padwee Lane, lots 1 through 4 in the subdivision map, together with S. Howard Padwee and Jane E. Padwee, the fee owners of Padwee Lane, have offered Padwee Lane for dedication to the village of Irvington. Whereas the offer of dedication is subject to the conditions set forth in the irrevocable offer of dedication from Ron Cherry, Kerry Milstein, Linda Forstman, Todd Greenberg, and Karen Greenberg, dated September 27, 2017. And whereas the village superintendent of public works and village engineer have inspected Padwee Lane and determined that it meets the village standards for public street, now therefore be it resolved that the Irvington Board of Trustees accepts the offer of dedication of Padwee Lane and schedules a public hearing on the dedication to be held on November 6, 2017. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Although it says we have to have a roll call.
Yeah.
Oh, roll call.
That's just left off.
It's from, from the last time this happened.
The one other thing is that the lawyer,
We can do it.
the lawyer for the Padwees, I guess she's also representing them, does have a deed ready. Dr. Padwee died, but they have a deed ready to convey it to the village, because they own the fee. These, the people on Padley Lane have a right of way over that, so we'll get that, we'll probably have it by the next meeting and do it all together.
Great.
Sure.
Acceptance of grant from the dormitory authority.
Nope.
Nope, I'm
Next one.
sorry. I just checked off the authorization to approve change order number 2 for the Old Croton Aqueduct Trailway Project, 2017-10.
All right.
And here it is.
So there's this change order is a conglomeration of a few different changes that came up during the project. The changes have been handled already in large part. The engineers were overseeing all of that. The two main ones really are, one is actually purchasing a supply of white pavers, the white brick that you see in the crosswalks. There's a minimum order size because they're special order, and rather than sending back the ones that we didn't need to then incur a restocking charge and have nothing, we decided that it made more sense to actually purchase the additional ones, store them, and they'll be used for other crosswalks that you'll be seeing down the road. And the other change is the main other change is that there were, where the plaza was constructed, much of the base that's needed for the pavers is concrete, and much of Main Street had the appropriate concrete underneath the asphalt pavement, but there were parts that did not, and so that had to be cut out and poured with the appropriate concrete to go into the pavers. So I won't say that was completely unexpected. In fact, frankly, we were lucky that there's as much of Main Street did have a good base underneath the pavers as it did. So this is the balance that didn't. And there's a few other minor items there, but the total of which adds up to $12,663.21.
2 dogwood trees.
Yeah. They were delivered with the other 2 that were ordered, and we decided rather than send those back, we used them. So that's all. Figured it couldn't hurt. They're not installed in the plaza. I mean, there are ones that are in the plaza, but the others were installed, I believe, to the north.
Yeah.
Along the track.
Any update on the Con Ed work?
We're doing a bit of a full court press on Con Ed. Con Ed is planning a gas line replacement, and we are really hoping that Con Ed will tell us the depth of the new gas main so that we can put a sleeve underneath Main Street that will allow us to construct the brick crosswalk across Main Street. The contractor has yet to do that. Con Edison has not been responsive, so I today got some of the past correspondence between our engineers and Con Ed and the lack of responses, and I escalated it to the next person in charge at Con Ed. So we're trying to get the information as quickly as possible. You know, again, if we're successful in getting that information, we'll do the crosswalk now. If we're not, we will have to wait till after Con Ed's done with the gas line, which would be unfortunate, but that's...
What time frame are we talking about here?
Well, we were told by the end of the year they would be starting construction, but I have no confidence that that's correct, to be honest with you.
And how extensive is the line? I mean, how much?
I think it's only down, I think it's from Broadway down to roughly where the school is. The school is actually, they're upgrading it, I think, for something related to the school. Because the school told us about the gas line installation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Luckily.
In our very first construction coordination meeting, the school's grounds official told us about this.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's still basically in the budget that we planned on, right? I forget the total amount of the whole thing, but I think most people know it was essentially a grant. And I think I'm expecting that the public knows that there are still these unfinished parts, and if people are confused about whether it's finished, it's actually not finished. There are these little things that are being fixed. So I think, you're in touch with the appropriate people, and I'm confident that's all going forward. Maybe Veterans Day, people will be standing there for the first time, and it'll get a little more of a public showing. I think a lot of people love the lights at night, seeing
Yeah, the lights look great.
and there are some adjustments we know are happening, so that's good.
Resolved to approve change order number 2 for the purchase of Granada white pavers, the installation of gas plates, the saw cut and removal of concrete, adjustment of granite curves at the monument, and the installation of 2 additional trees by Tony Caselli, Inc., related to the Old Croton Aqueduct Trailway project in the amount of $12,663.21. And to authorize the village administrator to execute said change order. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Now, we see acceptance of grant from the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York for Main Street pedestrian safety improvements.
Okay, so we had been approached by our state assemblyman about the possibility of an allocation of something known as state and municipal funds, which are capital funds that can be used for a variety of public uses, but transportation is one of the uses. And what we've proposed here is this is a $125,000 grant, and we've proposed to fix up certain intersections along Main Street, and I'm not going to be specific yet because we still have to budget everything out a little bit more finely. But the plan is to have the enhanced brick crosswalks across Main Street, similar to the ones that were built up at the Aqueduct crossing. And also, we would like to install the LED lights, assuming that the ones that eventually get installed up the top of the hill here are something that people like. So we would have that. And we already have a separate grant dealing with the handicap ramps along Main Street. So all of that would be part of this project, the enhanced crosswalks essentially. And to the extent that that certain curb extensions or bulb outs work, we're trying one here in front of Town Hall as part of the Town Hall Theater Plaza. But if there's others in other areas that make sense along Main Street, we'll do that too.
So just any idea approximately what a crosswalk array would cost?
Yeah, I think...
I'm not trying to pin you down.
No,
Just
no,
wondering
it's
how
okay.
how far it will go.
Right. You know, right now, the original estimate that I saw is that we could probably get about 1.5 intersections done for this $125,000. I think that number is overstated, though. I really do. And a standard intersection, at least in the view that we have here, would be painted crosswalks along the side streets, crossing the side streets, enhanced crosswalks, 2 of them across Main Street at each corner of an intersection, and then the curb extensions or bulb outs. So that's kind of the play part that we're not sure of yet. I think the number could be less than, I think we could get 2 full intersections out of this. I'd like to, anyway.
And then the LEDs, if that happens,
And that'll be
it's not a
included as
big
well, yeah.
expense.
Yeah, no, well, it's not small, but it's, I mean, it's not insignificant, but it would be something that we'd like to include as well. I mean, if it all works out, you know, I think the likely locations for this would be Ecker Street and Dutcher Street. Those are your, you know, and then that together with Ferris being looked at is our locations.
I would sure like to see something in front of Village Hall.
Yeah.
Paris.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Yep.
Is that the first
Yeah.
one?
I think we're trying to see what we can do as part of the Town Hall Theater Plaza. I don't
Oh,
know
I
if we can do
understand.
that. I don't know if we can do the enhanced crossing, but we'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
But we're not, look, this is the first step to get the grant. The fine tuning and the planning for all this is all, you know, you're in charge of that, so there'll be discussions about it.
You've mentioned in the past that there's often a lot of expense involved in managing the grant and requirements by the state.
Not this one.
I mean, for $125,000,
Yeah.
how much would it cost?
Yeah, this is...
Federal grants.
The federal.
Yeah, this is not
was
federal.
the,
So that's a, right there.
Transportation one,
That's a
Department
winner.
of Transportation.
This is a non-matching, we can handle these
Non-matching.
every day of the week. So, the federal one's a different story.
So quick, maybe this is-
Yeah, exactly, before we lose money.
So is it highly competitive, or is it more?
No.
Yeah, this is more like,
It's nominated by your assemblyman.
exactly.
So, this is not a grant application, this is the grant contract.
Oh,
Yeah, we got it already.
let's go then.
As soon as we finish this. Whereas the Village of Irvington applied to the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York for a grant in the amount of $120,000 for a project entitled Irvington Pedestrian Safety Improvements to be located in the Village of Irvington. Whereas acceptance of the grant requires the applicant municipality to obtain the approval and endorsement of the governing body of the municipality in which the project will be located. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby does accept and endorse the grant for a project known as Irvington Pedestrian Safety Improvements, and authorizes the village administrator and the clerk treasurer to sign all necessary documents associated with the grant. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Timing on that, Larry? You expect-
I don't know.
You don't know.
I'm sorry, I've not been through this process with the dormitory authority in charge of the approval, so we're all gonna learn together.
I mean, there are quite a few grant projects based on grants that are, I guess we all know that, but the public might not be aware that there are these separate chunks of money that are all going into, in a sense, a master plan related to Main Street, where pieces of the safety and enhancement are coming together by these different sources of funds. And this is, I think we should be very thankful to Assemblyman Tom Avenanti for this. Sounds like a wonderful enhancement to what the other parts that we are already undergoing. So I'm certainly happy about this.
I guess we're gonna have to have
You must have done something right, Brian.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah,
You have to rename that section
What did you
of
do?
Main Street Avenatti Way, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Next item is the authorization to approve certain waivers for Burnham Building Housing Unit Property Transfer.
Okay, so the letter is fairly self-explanatory, but the owner of the housing unit, Burnham Building LP, is considering the sale of the housing unit, which we all knew. And the condominium declaration and bylaws provide for that the village has the right of first refusal to purchase that housing condominium unit, I guess at the same terms as is currently being contemplated. So that's one answer that they're looking for from you as a board. The other is that there's a provision there that if the unit is sold, it has to, the closing, I think the sale has to be completed within 60 days after we're notified about it, I think is essentially what the provision is. Which is really, I don't think, relevant in this situation. So they've asked us for a waiver of that provision to allow for up to a year for them to close on the property. I mean, so from our standpoint, we don't see any issue with either of those requests. I think it's pretty safe to say that the village isn't interested in purchasing the housing unit, meaning all of the apartments. So I'm guessing you don't want to be a landlord. Maybe that's going out on a limb, but anyway, that's what this resolution basically says.
Anyone disagree with that?
I never thought we were even considering it, since we're not specialists in this.
No.
We probably have to hire somebody to manage it.
Yeah, we're not in the business of
Right.
running housing.
But it has no impact on the library,
No, I don't see how it would.
because the library is a separate entity from the housing.
Yes.
I mean, I actually thought that we were further along in this, and that this, because we already spoke to that group, right? That they came and we talked to them.
I think they're very far along. I think there's approvals that they're looking for from Westchester County relating to tax credits and funding that are integral to the transaction. But that, this, to me, this is a real formality, I think. I mean, the way I look at it, but I think they are very far along in the process, my understanding. But
I guess I thought it had actually happened.
No, it hasn't happened yet.
Well, let's move them further along then.
Well, I don't know, is there any other things that we should be thinking about that are?
No, I went through it. I just wanted to make sure, there was one other thing when I was reading through the bylaws. Just wanted to make sure that new owner of the building, the new owner of the unit was aware of all of the requirements. And so it says that has to be included in the deed. So I just pointed that out to them and got confirmation from their attorney, which is Paul Weiss-Rifkin, that it would be included in the deed. So other than that, look, your only right is the right of first refusal. I mean, you don't even have the right to say whether you like the person or not. It's just the right of first refusal.
Right.
And then, of course, and then the extension of the 90-day period or 60-day period, whatever it is, to a year. And I can't quite figure out why that's significant. So I don't see why it would make any difference. I suppose maybe if any new, I guess if a new buyer came in and there were different terms, then they would have to let you know and offer to you on those terms. But I don't see any now.
Whereas the owner of the Burnham Building Housing Condominium Unit, Burnham Building LP, received a bona fide offer for the purchase of the housing condominium unit from J Cubed Residential LLC, who is the successors and assigns WHG. And whereas pursuant to condominium declaration and bylaws of the condominium, the village has the right of first refusal with respect to purchasing the housing condominium unit. And whereas Burnham Building LP offered the housing condominium unit on the same terms and conditions as offered to WHG. And whereas Article 8, Section I of the bylaws of the condominium provides for certain time constraints within which any such property purchase must take place. And whereas the Village Board of Trustees wishes to waive its right of first refusal to the purchase of the housing condominium unit and to extend the time within which the sale to WHG must take place, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees declines to exercise its right to purchase the housing unit and waives the time constraint contained in Article 8, Section I of the bylaws of the condominium to allow the sale to take place within 1 year of the date of the fully signed waiver document. I'll make a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Mr. Gilliland?
Not too much to say. I guess just to point out that the tree commission is as always is looking for folks to work with them. They're actually meeting this Tuesday night in the library local history room. So at 7:15, if anyone wants to drop by and see how that operates. And they've been moving ahead with DPW and Larry in terms of getting the first two enhanced tree wells, rebuilt tree wells done. I'm not sure, sometime this fall, it looks like, right?
Yeah, we've ordered the hardware,
crates
and
were
there's a
ordered,
lead time on that. Probably, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks, so we're probably 2 weeks into it.
Yeah, the trees are spec'd and located, and so everything is ready to move forward.
Do you get to have a lottery, like I want the tree well in front of?
Well, actually, this time around, Greg was picking them, it's because he wanted the ones that were the most, for want of a better word, the most level across. Because it's the first time they've installed the
Yeah, so
hardware,
you're-
so they
you're
didn't
on-
want to have to be playing games.
That's fine.
Once they get comfortable with it, then they can start addressing some of the other more.
Hill issues.
Yeah, more complicated ones.
Well, I'm very excited about tree wells. I've been thinking about them for years.
I guess that's about it
Yeah.
for now.
No? DeLonghi?
I'd like to thank Larry and Mayor Smith for including in the announcement some of the things that I was going to already talk about. The Harvest Hayride, the Halloween Parade, the PETA Holy Turkey Tribe, all were mentioned in earlier announcements. Brian also spoke about Rocktoberfest, and it was a great success, and one person he neglected to mention, special thanks to, was himself. Brian did a lot of work in getting this off the ground and getting this organized, and does deserve a lot of credit. Special thanks today, looking back to the Arlington Beautification Committee. It's hard enough keeping Main Street looking good, and they've done a wonderful job planting flowers up and down Main Street.
Yeah, I was walking into the post office today and saw that the two boxes out front had been updated.
Right.
It looked really good.
So they spent the day there.
Yeah.
There's a CAB meeting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. at the Senior Citizen Center. The IS Executive Board is meeting October 23rd, 8 a.m. in the Senior Center. The Irvington Woods Committee will hold a family fun night at the O'Hara Nature Center on Saturday, October 28th from 4 to 6. There's a new Friday night open gym program for 4th and 5th graders starting on October 27th. There is registration required for that. And please remember to bring your Irvington Park Pass to play tennis at the Memorial Park courts. There's a lot of use, and there have been some complaints from residents not being able to access the courts, so please have your permits.
Thank you. Ms. Keough.
Okay, so the water department reports on their reading water meters and doing the fall maintenance. South Astor apparently had a broken hydrant that's been repaired, and this is listed as the final week of hydrant flushing in the low service zone. I'm not exactly sure where the low service zone, but I guess if you're in it, you know it. Update the emergency resource plan and vulnerability assessment plan submitted to the Westchester County Health Department. Greg reports about the highway department. There are 5 catch basins repaired, rebuilt, Cyrus Field Road, and 5 on Cyrus Field Road and 1 on North Broadway. And they assisted with a lot of the work for Oktoberfest, which I'm sorry I missed the report on, but I was there and it did seem to be a great success. Then the backhaul was being used also, and there was more line painting. The theater had an almost sold-out event, Red Molly, run by Common Ground. I think that was a big success. And the film festival is on the 21st. That would be
Better get your
something.
tickets because they're almost sold out.
Yes, I looked at that today.
There's almost no seats left, period.
All right, so the theater is doing a lot of sold-out events. The Historic District Committee is meeting on October 24th, and they actually got a second award for the design guide from the architectural, I didn't actually have time to read the description, so I sent it to Larry. Okay, oh, there it is. They were recommended, the design guide that, of course, we all know pretty well, that has now gotten a second award, and this one was from the American Institute of Architects. And the design award program recognizes project exhibiting excellence in design and that have made a positive aesthetic and social contribution to the built environment, and as a result have increased public awareness of quality architectural design. And this went to, in the category municipal community planning category, it was given to Steve Tilley and the village. I guess Earl Ferguson went and accepted that award at the Hudson River Museum. On the downtown Chamber of Commerce, we are still, I was looking for some contact from some of the folks, some of the businesses who are stepping up, but I don't think I heard back from them today. But I do know that there was a group from Wave Hill today in the village, hosted in a guided walk by Sarah Kelsey, and Wave Hill was here, and I don't know, 20-some people maybe. And they went to local restaurants, and they saw the Tiffany Room, and they're helping our downtown business. So thank you, Sarah, for bringing a group of people to tour the town. I think that's it. The farmers market is still continuing. It's November, but they're still having their Sunday market, and that goes until right at Thanksgiving. I think it's the week.
Yeah, it's the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
The Sunday before, and that's a big one, because a lot of people buy their Thanksgiving meal at the farmer's market. I think that's all. I might have forgotten something.
If it comes back to you, we'll get you at the end.
All right, we're almost at the end.
Village Administrator's report.
So just a quick reminder that we'll be all together again on Wednesday, because you like it here so much, 7 o'clock, but a meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Committee to review a few different miscellaneous items. Just a quick note also on the Town Hall project, we are fully expecting that the front scaffolding will be coming down in the next few days.
Whoa.
Unless there's something that went awry that I don't know about, but I believe that's the case.
Does that mean the columns are up?
Is there any chance we could
Everything's
get
up.
champagne or something?
No, well, there's still, yeah, there's still a few pieces that are, few pieces of terracotta that need to be installed, but they don't need scaffolding for it. They'll have to have a lift on the one day that they do that, but.
You stand there.
Yeah.
Brian's gonna
And,
stand there.
Brian's gargoyle head.
Yeah, exactly. Like your man, editing it balder.
And we're also pushing that by the end of the week, if not sooner, the Station Road will be reopened.
Whoa.
So we're hoping, yeah, no, there was a little bit of a delay, probably about 10 days worth of a delay in the gas line changeover. There was some difficulties there, yeah, so, but that's, honestly, that's the largest difficulty that we encountered
You're gonna have a
to
ribbon
date.
cutting, like they did for the new Tappan Zee Bridge?
Yeah, I don't know that it's that dramatic. Someone could ride a bicycle
Well,
over
it's
it.
still faster than the Ashford Avenue.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's much less complicated.
Great Wall of China.
Yeah, so that's it.
So the end of the week is what?
Yeah, that's what we're pushing for, yeah, although we seem to feel it could be done sooner, but we'll see.
I've had people ask.
I know, I'm sure.
Do people like it closed?
I tell you, it's pretty quiet.
Yeah,
Be quiet.
I bet, but Main Street's rather busy, so, for what it's worth.
Much busier than it used to be.
Gets way backed up.
Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
Working on the audit, financial statement, they call the MD&A, Management Discussion and Analysis. Getting that ready because at the next meeting, our auditors will be coming to present to you.
The November 6th meeting.
November 6th meeting.
No, I'd just like to meet with the board for a little bit after tonight's meeting.
So I have one other one then that I just realized that we haven't been talking about, if I may just have a moment, and that is, it is fall and what happens in the fall, what leaves
Love 'em and
come
leave
down. So love them and leave them, mulching leaves in place. There's actually, I don't know who gets a way to garden, if anyone gets that from Margaret Roach. It's a great blog. She sends out things once a week and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyways, she had an interview with someone that was talking about basically making use of your leaves and mulching and composting. And there was a thing in there about talking about shredding your leaves on the lawn, shredding your leaves for use in the compost pile and all that. So it's very interesting. I just want to say that for those of you that want to get some more background information, it's something that I know many villages, the town of Greenberg supports and implements with their DPW. The county waste management district really supports and backs the practice. And Cornell has been doing research in terms of the effect of it, the benefits and positive and negative, I guess, effects on lawns as you leave them. That's going into its second year of the study. I don't know when the results will be, or third year. I don't know when the results are going to be published. Anyways, there is a website, leleny.org, that has lots of information, and feel free to go there. I actually maintain it. But I'm going to put the Margaret Roach interview, it's a podcast, up this week, so people can listen to that. It's fun. Thank you.
And it all started here.
It all started here, right. It all started with our lovely Green Policy Task Force.
Did you leave anything else, Connie?
No, not yet.
Public comment? Review of action items? Take out a scaffolding?
No, there was one. Well, the hosting question.
That's all I had.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to adjourn if I could have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We need a roll call on that.